morning. Welcome. We got everybody joining in. Let's get everyone into the room. And here we are. Hello, hello. Oh, good. I see so many fun and familiar faces. All of you coming out to support your beautiful friend, Erica. And those of you who are new, who are just drawn to this incredibly enticing topic. All right, let's get everybody in here. Hello, hello. All right. And let me go ahead and where are we? Here we are. All right. So I have to spotlight myself. I probably shouldn't because I just got back from Bali, which is like that's such a cool sentence by itself. I just got back from Bali, but I'm exhausted. I'm totally jet lagged. I woke up like 15 minutes ago. So welcome. But the trip was great. It was like a trip of a lifetime kind of a trip. And I learned so much about like their culture, so different from ours and how we think about life and what is important. And so that was just, I think, one of my favorite things, that the things that we think are like what makes a life and what makes a home and what makes all those things, they have totally different answers to all of those questions. And that was really mind expanding for me. So yeah, so anyway, so it's great to be, and that's what Wisdom Soup is all about, right? It's all about expanding our minds, expanding our hearts. So yeah, so for those of you who are new here, welcome to Wisdom Soup. Wisdom Soup, we started, yes, Pamela's waiting. Hi, welcome. So we started Wisdom Soup. Gosh, it's been, I mean, I want to say 6, 7, 8, 9 years ago. I need to add them up at this point. The years just fly by, but it's been a long time that we started. I originally started Wisdom Soup because I was on my own journey and I didn't have like my friends at the time were not at all interested in where I was going and what I was doing. Nobody wanted to talk about it. And I really needed all new friends. So I put a post up in Meetup and I rented a theater in downtown Bellevue. And magically, like 25 people showed up. And some of those people are still some of my close friends. So it was really for me, it was a way of meeting people who were also on this journey and to share the journey. And we met in person for a long time, and then COVID hit, and we've been meeting online. So the community has expanded, and now it's really a global community. And what I love about Wisdom Soup, the name Wisdom Soup came from the idea that you make your own soup. That what are you going to put in your soup? You get to decide. So here we present all different types of ideas and approaches, all in the woo-woo realm, all of the things related to the woo. We are open to all of it here, and that way you get to tune in and listen and think about it and share your thoughts, and you keep what resonates for you and leave the rest. So, and I know for me, it was an important part of my journey being open to hearing new ideas and experimenting with new thoughts. And there were some things that in the beginning, I was totally like, no way, that doesn't exist. And now I'm like, oh yeah, that exists. My mind has changed. So I think it's good to just continually keep ourselves immersed in it because we change, as we change, our perspective changes. And we have over the course of time talked about everything from, from the nature of the universe to, how crystals work, to how dream analysis, to dragons and elves, and you name it. Like we talk about all the things, and learn what we can about them. So it's been a super, super fun ride. So today I am very excited because as many of you know, Erica, that I can see there on the group with us right now, and some of you are longtime Wisdom Soup members too, which is exciting to see, to have you guys back with us today. And some are newer to the group. But Erica is our speaker for today. And she has been a longtime friend of mine that I met through Wisdom Soup. I think I met her at one of our Wisdom Soup Spirit Summits many years ago. And Erica is if you are looking for like a great healer in the area and you go onto one of the recommendation sites like Yelp and you top in like top energy healers, Erica will show up. She has been healing professionally for over 15 years. And even though she doesn't look old enough for that to be true, just that she found her calling early and has been at it this whole time. just showing up and doing the work. And there is nothing like time on task to grow expertise. What is it? They say 10,000 hours. She has put in her 10,000 hours on energy healing. So for a person to be talking with us today about her favorite subject, which is the methods, the tips, the tricks, the hows, the like her favorite thing is to geek out on this kind of stuff. How do you do this? How does energy healing work? So I am super, super excited to bring in to our little conversation here to introduce her to those of you who don't yet know her, for friends yet to be made, Erica Larson. And so here she is. Hey,
Hi, everyone. Thanks for that lovely intro.
yeah, you're welcome.
I'm
Not
trying
bad
not to
for like
blush.
5 hours of sleep.
Yeah, right. Yeah, we're a little fuzzy brained over here. Well, thank you for having me. This is fun, and I kind of just do this together. And so I hope that it makes sense and is organized well enough. It is quite an intangible topic. The
Yeah.
work that, energy healing, it's so intangible that trying to distill it down into teachable material has been a good challenge.
They actually, it's such an interesting thing that it is one thing to be really, really good at something, but there is nothing like trying to teach something to make you realize what you know. It's like trying to
Yeah.
teach someone how to walk when you know how to walk is like super, super hard unless you can break it down. Yeah, breaking it down into steps. So I totally honor you for that journey, that process of trying to teach what you know. Yeah.
And there's so much to cover. So I'm just going with the very basics today and like what I kind of thought about, okay, what do I do on in any given session? If I'm holding X amount of sessions a week, this is what I work the foundations of which I work in every healing session. And so I thought that I would cover those because there's so much more. It's very complex energy healing, especially in this psychic energy approach that I use. Um, and so, yeah, so I'm hoping that I can break this down for us today. Let me go ahead. I'm going to share my screen. So, Anne, I'm going to ask you if anyone has questions or like put them in the chat box, you guys. And Anne, if you can monitor the chat box and just chime in whenever there's a question, because I want people to see
100%. Yeah. So if anybody,
it. Be
anything
helpful.
comes up, if you have a question, put it in the chat. I'll be monitoring the chat and then, and we'll get to everybody's questions. Anything you have to ask Erica, let us know.
Cool. Host disabled participant screen sharing is a, I just
Let
got.
me set you up to screen share. Sorry.
Great. Cool.
Um, uh, 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 Hold on just a sec here. Why is it
No
not
question.
letting me do this on you? Um, 1 second. Now I can. Okay. So now you should be able to
Okay.
do it.
Beautiful. Um, yeah, here we go. So let me get into present mode here. All right. Psychic energy healing. I
Yay.
love this topic. Okay. So we're going to cover, Anne already introduced me, so we can kind of skip the about me, but I put it in here. We're going to go into defining psychic energy healing, what that is, and how that brings in our spiritual gifts, because this is definitely somebody who has spiritual gifts modality, right? This is healing work. You need to have the gifts. So I'm going to break down which gifts are involved in energy healing and psychic energy healing. And then we're going to get into the different energy bodies and what each one represents. And then I'll go over some case studies. So we'll kind of bring it all together and talk about, give you examples of sessions that I have, that kind of fit each one. And then I have a little bit of offerings at the end, just to put that out there in advance. Okay, so I've been at this for 15 years. I started with focusing on healing relationship wounds. That was really my topic. And that is something that still comes up today. I also assist light workers in growing their gifts, in channeling, building their business, and then learning how to heal. I love fantasy novels. Anything with dragons or wyverns, it's right up my alley. I love my dog, and gardening and all sorts of other things when I'm not energy healing. Okay, so psychic energy healing, what is this? All right, so this is an approach that focuses on healing through your spiritual gifts. And really what you're doing is you have the ability to access and manipulate energy within someone's energy field. And this is for the purposes of healing. And what this ends up doing is as you're working on someone's energy field, you're pulling out heavy constructs of energy and allowing that person to lighten their energy field. And so they're raising their vibration through your energy healing work. And this can be done in person or at a distance. Okay. I started all of this in person. I had an office for many, many, many years. And probably about 6 years ago, when I moved down to California for a stint, I put everyone online and I started doing this virtually. And that's when I realized how many gifts I was using as I was doing it remotely. So it was a really big, important step in my growth as a healer. That moving down to San Diego and putting everybody online. So what gifts are involved in psychic energy healing? Well, so distance healing for sure. So if you are distance healing or hands-on healing, so you can do this both in person or at a distance, like I spoke about. And your dreams will show you. Those of us, a lot of you I know are maybe dream analysts or gone through Michael's course or have his dictionary. And so there are different symbols that can show you which gifts are yours if you're curious, if you don't already know. But distance healing and hands-on healing are definitely two of the main spiritual gifts that you're going to be using with psychic energy healing. At this point, I channel a lot of my energy healing, so that is a gift that I use quite regularly in my healing practice. And then psychic surgery is another one. So this shows up a lot when you're working on medical issues or having to bring parts of people back in on the spiritual plane through into the physical plane when there's physical ailments and things of that nature, which we'll kind of get into later. So there are even more gifts, clairvoyance, clairsentience. So clairvoyance is obviously you're seeing, things within someone's energy field. Clairsentience, you're feeling it. I feel a lot. Um, with my clients. And so, and I see, but I also feel a lot. And that gives me a lot of information when I am working on somebody. And I actually prefer not having them in here. I prefer not having them in person anymore because I find their body to be really distracting. I would rather tune in to their energy field from a distance because it puts me, both of us, in a more meditative state, and I can actually have a hyper focus that way. So a lot of people get really surprised and like, you do this over the phone? And I'm like, I do, and I prefer it that way. Counseling, a lot of times you're running into mental blocks with people. Counseling is actually, so there's counseling that you get through your education, right? And then there's the gift of counseling, which you come into usually at the start of your life. And that's oftentimes because you've been through difficult things. And healers usually have been through difficult things. That there's a term wounded healer for a reason, right? So a lot of times we have to be working on ourselves to be able to help more and more people, right? Because as we help ourselves, we help others. And then being able to work on past lives. This comes up a lot as well. So I'll be working on an issue with somebody in their field and it will take me into a past life where there needs to be healing. So these are some of the extra gifts that are, utilized through this, through psychic energy healing. Okay, any questions? I see some chats in the chat box.
Yeah, there's just one question here, which was from Linda, and she's wanting to know about how to move energy blocks. And I know you're going to get into more details, so maybe you'll answer this. Maybe I'll hold some of the questions if there's something that seems pertinent to right now, but there's some that may be good for questions at the end after you've had a chance to present everything. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay.
All right. Okay, so we're going to get into the energy bodies. So the first one that I have defined here is the mental body. And beliefs are just thoughts you keep thinking, and belief will become an identity. So I love this Latin term. I came across this the other day. So Latin so basically what identity means in Latin is repeated beingness. So when you're working with somebody in their energy field and you come across a belief or an identity that somebody has, oftentimes that needs to be discussed and um, reimagined or reframed in order to get you know, a full body healing, right? Because if somebody's clinging to an identity that they have, they will oftentimes resist the healing. Okay, so this is important, the mental body. And this comes from experiences and conditioning that we've had, right? So cognitive acceptance is really important, and I just find it to be a gateway to sustained change. So you can access this through many ways. A lot of times I run into the mental body, obviously through the third eye or the mind field, but it also will show up through wounding. So there's a lot of different, it's kind of fun with psychic energy healing because it's almost like a maze, and you start one place and then it takes you to another and it takes you to another, and you're just kind of following the breadcrumbs in someone's energy field. And I run into that, every day. So I've broken all of the different bodies, the mental body, the emotional body, the physical body, and the spiritual body down for this teaching purpose. I work within these, um, I would say simultaneously on a regular basis. So this is really just for teaching purposes. I've been breaking this down. Well, this is so working on the mental body is really important for again changing perspectives, freeing yourself of the past, right? A lot of times acceptance is like the key to letting go, right? It's the key to forgiveness. We have to accept realities. We have to accept things we cannot change. And there's a lot of times so many blocks to people actually accepting. So helping somebody through that, that's where like the counseling comes in, right? So with the mental body, a lot of times identities that people like, what do you identify with? And it could be an individual identity, it could be a family identity, it could be cultural or religious, it could be a political identity. We're going into, a very election year. We're in an election year. So that'll bring out a lot of duality in people, economic things of this nature. So where is there somewhere where you're like you might have an identity that's not serving you, right? So for example, I had a lot of chronic illness, and I find this in people who have not chronic illness, chronic pain. And I find this with people who have a chronic pain or a chronic illness, they then can begin to identify with that, right? And we have to deconstruct that identity, right? In order for somebody to receive really sustained healing, we have to deconstruct that. They have to let go of that identity. And a lot of times it's like, well, who am I going to be without this? Right. And that can be fearful. How is this serving me? Oftentimes it's like, what is the benefit that identity is serving you? And when you can deconstruct that and reframe it, it frees you from that construct and you're able to receive a deeper healing. Okay. So moving on, emotional body. Okay, so emotions are energy in motion. And I remember when I started really, when I started out healing, my first trainings were uh, life coaching and hypnotherapy and Reiki. And I'd be working on people and I'm like, I feel like I'm missing something. There's an important part that I'm missing. And when I started to learn about the power of emotions in healing work, it started to completely transform my business. And not just my business, it started to transform my healing sessions. That's what it is. Um, because emotions I find them to be blocks again to sustained healing because they are sticky and they stick together and they just get in a way. So trying to move something in someone's energy field and it's being held down by an emotion, clearing that emotion can help kind of bring out the rest of the healing session. So this is also where triggers come from, right? A trapped emotion. So this is the emotional body is full of information, right? This is where we handle wounding, inner child and younger self issues, trauma resolution. So the emotional body is really, that's where I find myself probably doing the bulk of my work is in the emotional body. The emotions can also create pain, walls, energy imbalances. So and a lot of I don't know in the case studies that I have for you today. I have one example of where emotions create pain. But somebody who's experienced chronic pain will know this. I think a lot of times there's a lot of emotion behind that. So, okay. So over time, yep, the emotions build and manifest as physical symptoms, including physical pain. So releasing triggers. So a lot of times when I'm going into somebody's emotional body, I might be starting when I'm entering into their field, starting with the trigger and then following the trail and the breadcrumb of where that trigger is coming from. So it's a good way to assess someone's field for healing. Balancing the nervous system to repair or prevent flooding and their nervous system dysregulations. So we have freezing, we have fawning, we have you know, fight and flight, all these different reactions that I find are a lot of times stemmed in the emotional body and they manifest physically, right? So when we get flooded with emotion, it's a way to give you information of like, okay, what's the deeper wounding underneath this, right? Okay. Um, let's see, moving on. So physical body. Okay. So the physical body is actually, I really enjoy working on the physical body. Um, it's fun too. It's another access point. Organs, tissues, illness, people who come to me with uh, like a fungal issue, which is funny. I see fungus as being like little, like the movie The Minions, like the little minions. I see fungus as being minions. And it really just wants a place to breed and grow. And so when somebody has a fungal issue, I'm like, oh, this is fun. Let's work on this. Uh, Medical, a lot of times, there are times when you're working with somebody and they have a medical issue that is purely medical and they need medical attention. And so I want to highlight that because that is not everything is going to be something that can be approached. And it's good to know where your limitations are when you're working on somebody. Injuries, again, these also you can work on energetically. Anyone here, I'm sure there's a lot of Reiki practitioners or hands-on healers in the audience. And I remember I had a friend who she was a Reiki instructor and she shattered her wrist walking her dog. And she had to go out of town, so she couldn't have surgery on it. And she was gone for 2 weeks. And and she literally had her hand, she had x-rays done, and she's like, I'm on my way to the airport. I can't get surgery. And she was at this conference for 2 weeks with her hand on her wrist giving herself Reiki for 2 weeks. And she got back and her family's like, go back to the doctor, you have to get surgery. And they take second set of x-rays and the doctor looks at her and says that her wrist has never been broken. And she did that just through Reiki, right? Just through having her hand on her wrist for 2 weeks straight. Now that's painful, but energy healing for physical injuries can be a really beautiful um, what do I want to say, modality. Okay, so as a clairsentient, I often feel, I might have spelled that wrong. I often feel physical symptoms from my clients' energy fields. I'll feel them in my physical body. So if somebody has shortness of breath, if they have some sort of tension in their chest, in their lung capacity, I will not be able to take a full breath. If somebody has a headache and I'm in their energy field, I'm like, do you have a headache or a neck ache? Like I can feel these vertebrae are tight or out of alignment. Like I'll be asking my clients questions because my physical body is giving me somatic experiences that mirror the client's energy field and body. And this is really insightful for me because I know where I need to be focusing, right? And I can follow that breadcrumb. Where is this coming from? Where is this going to? What is needed here? And I can work with different techniques to try and get that to loosen, right? So I love, for example, when somebody has like tightness in their chest, I have a few clients that I deal with this with, and I'll go in and I'll be working on fascial release in their field and having them work with their breath as I'm working on them. And within a few moments, they have a full breath capacity, right? Um, tuning into organs is really neat as well. So, if you're familiar with like Louise Hay and her How to Heal Yourself book, like she goes through a whole bunch of kind of symptom diagnoses in her on different organs and what they're related to. So that's a good touch point to look at if you're curious. But
Also,
when,
just one question. I just wanted to interject because I think this was kind of in the flow. Was
yeah,
Maureen was asking is asking intuitively what is the root cause? This assist in knowing the path to assist. Well, this assist knowing the path to healing is to asking
asking,
intuitively about the root cause.
well, 100%. Yep, 100%. That's really your goal in the session, right? That's your broader goal is getting to the root cause of the issue. Yeah. That's a great point. Thank you for bringing that up. And oftentimes when you ask what the root cause, so you can ask what the root cause is. You can also, there's a lot of different ways you can get to that. And that's why I keep coming to breadcrumbs, right? You can follow the symptoms. You can go, for example, so, and I'll get into this at the end when I'm doing case studies, but so for physical body, I might be working, somebody might come to me and say, I have pelvic floor pain. I have, every time I go to the gym, I end up like, like peeing myself, right? Like women, any woman here who's had a baby probably understands what I'm speaking of. And so she's coming to me for a physical symptom, and I go into that chakra, into those organs, and I start poking around energetically and looking for the root cause of what that is. And what is there. And it could be a physical symptom that's coming from an emotional wound, right? Um, so yeah, it's a really fascinating, every session is different. Um, and with the physical body, oftentimes clearing emotional congestion and wounding from the organs can improve symptoms, in my personal and professional experience. So I had somebody who came to me for, they came to me and they had stomach pain, and they were like, I don't know what's happening with the stomach pain. I'll oftentimes feel like, if somebody has heartburn, I'll know. Like, oh, you have heartburn. And so he came to me for this physical stomach pain, and turns out we started seeing this connection between his mouth and his stomach that went back to nursing as a baby with his mother, and it was an issue around needs. And it went into this whole other aspect, but we came back to the stomach issue, and he's like, oh my gosh, the stomach pain is gone. Right. But it was still had, there was a little bit of inflammation there. And I'm like, here are some ideas that they're showing me that you could drink aloe vera juice, is what they're showing me. And he's like, oh, I have aloe vera pills. And I'm like, I'm seeing that it's juice. And I had no idea. And I've never drank aloe vera juice, but that's what they kept showing me. Right. So to help the tissues of his stomach, and his digestive tract heal. Okay, so physical body, addressing the physical body and going into that through that approach is, releasing tightness and pain, restoring balance. And then again, like I said, it's an access point for deeper healing.
And then one person asked, Louise asked an interesting question, which is because you mentioned that you had used Reiki early in your work, and she's wondering if you think it is evolving.
I think healers are evolving. Um, Reiki, I know that for me, because I've taught many Reiki classes, and I have a healing program coming up, and I was just channeling on it the other day, and the angels showed me that I would be channeling angelic frequencies and for hands-on healing for my students, that I would be inducting them and teaching them how to, beyond Reiki, how to channel hands-on healing with angelic frequencies. So that's like super, super exciting. I just was floored. And I could feel it. It was just this massive column. And I have worked with Reiki for a long time, so I understand that energy. And this was like the next level. So maybe Reiki is evolving in that way. But I think just healers are evolving. I think we are evolving. And therefore, I think our modalities and our access to those modalities and there's those broader giftings are evolving. Okay. That's my experience. Yeah. Um, Okay, spiritual body, all things spiritual. So this is super fun. This always comes in really exciting ways. So we have soul, higher self, the orc field, um, and then super conscious. So this can be broken down obviously in these different ways. And I gave you some examples of what you'd be working on with a spiritual body in a session. So we have soul wounds, and this, for example, this could be in my intuitive development course and channeling course. We were working on, we do a lot of clearing in the first portion of the class of past life blocks that are blocking your connection, because we're trying to heal your connection, your crown. And so there's a lot of past life karma, past life injuries. And one of them, which was really interesting in the last class, there was a couple of sessions that we did around soul wounds in their belief in God, of being angry at God, their relationship with God. because of the tragedy that they had experienced or seen. And we had to work on healing. You know, the angels came through, and this was a trans-channeled healing portion of the class, and was healing that. And all the students in the class had that same thread. So everyone that was called to this current class had that same wounding, which was really fascinating. So in the spiritual body, we're working on contract, soul retrieval, portals in the field, lower frequency issues. You know, this could be spells, this could be lots of different what do I say, generational things that come through the lineage that we're having to clear. And then embodied integration. So where we're doing soul retrievals, or when some, like a lot of times light workers, we have a common thing that I work on with light workers is the wounded healer who doesn't actually want to be here, who regrets coming because it's harder than we thought it was going to be. And this is common in so many healers. And so they don't really embody their body very much. We have to bring them back in. You know, you have to be in your body in this lifetime, and especially to do this kind of work. Because a lot of times we kind of leave our body when we're doing psychic energy healing, and we have to come back in. So having good spiritual hygiene, good energetic hygiene, and that's related, you know, to your spiritual body. Um, so yeah, so these are the four main bodies. And so let's go through some case studies because this
And
is fun. So all of these,
here's a
again, I've
question too,
broken.
before you go into that, just to a break, is another person asked, is Jane was asking, do you know, can you explain the difference between Reiki healing and Qigong healing? Because she says they sound really similar.
Well, they're both using Qigong is so Reiki is the Japanese term for life force energy. Qi is the Chinese form for word for life force energy. So it's using the same energy, you're just using it in a different way. It's a different expression of it, right? So Qigong, um, I understand that to be moving through your energy meridians and using that, I think, with um, is it breath work, or is it's movement, right? You're moving,
Yeah, my
right?
understanding with Qigong is you are building up, like the goal is to build up
Mhm.
Qi in your Dantian into, like you're trying to build up
Yes.
energy in the body, which I think
Yeah.
is really different from Reiki.
Which Reiki is moving it through and out the body. Like you're just a conduit, the vessel for the healing. Yeah. Yeah. It's a great, thank you. Mhm. Good question.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is fun. So again, I've broken these four energy bodies down for to teach. But these really are all intertwined in each session. Okay, so we're going to start with the mental body with, so we're going to Janet. These are all these are all covert names. These aren't the actual clients. So Janet's religious deconstruction. So she's come to me to help her deconstruct her, you know, her leaving her church and healing that. And her belief is that so in session, we're going into her deconstruction um, and following the thread of the healing that she needs. And we get to this belief system that I'll be like my dad and get divorced if I leave the church, because that was her experience as a child. And that's a big belief, right? So she's been married for many, many, many years, and she is leaving her church, and now she's afraid. She's like, they'll make me like, I'll become my dad, is basically the belief. And so there's a lot of fear associated with that. And so I get in there, and we're doing healing around this and working on identifying, and we're talking about this um, belief system and healing this younger self belief system from that experience, that emotional wound that she had, that trauma, and and all the fear that is associated with it. And so all this fear is coming up and out as she's, processing and acknowledging and, releasing this identity. Um, and she has had 2 years worth of symptoms of nausea. And she has been to countless doctors, taken different supplements. She has changed her diet. She's lost a bunch of weight. She's had all sorts of symptoms. And what's interesting is that it's been 2 years that she's been deconstructing from her religion. And in the session, she gives up this belief system, and with it goes the fear. And she thought, as she was doing this healing session, she had a barf bag next to her. She thought she was going to throw up the whole time. And then this belief system releases. She gives it up, and she thought she was going to vomit, and the nausea disappeared. It was gone. So we went into, so this covered multiple bodies. This was like, okay, we have the mental body, we have the physical body with the physical symptoms, and we have the emotional body, right? But it all came down, this one all came back to her belief system, right? So that's the first case study. So the emotional body. So Joanne's hyperemesis, that's how you say it. Hyperemesis. This is the extreme morning sickness that some women experience in pregnancy, where they are like constantly throwing up, right? So we have two nausea case studies today. And this client, she went through this for 3 full months. I kept waiting for her. She had to cancel her session. I kept waiting for her to book with me. And finally, she schedules with me. It's been 3 months break, and she's like, I've had this horrible hyperemesis um, for 3 months. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry to hear that. Let's go in and see if we can help you with it. And she goes, yeah, the doctor just told me that it happens to some women and that it just means that my baby's healthy, was the explanation he gave her. So no comment on that. So we get into the session. And I'm following the trail to the root cause of the issue. And it goes to her emotional body and it goes to extreme stress. She is a mother, a full-time working mother. She has surprisingly become, with child for her third baby, not planned. And her husband works out of town. So she is on her own. And she has this extreme worry and feeling of being unsupported in her motherhood. And it was so intense that it was creating the symptom of extreme nausea. And we were able to work through that part, almost like parts therapy, work through that part of her. And the hyperemesis went away and never came back. So there's like just really cool things you can do with psychic energy healing. Physical body. Okay, so another client of mine, move this one away here. Okay. So another client of mine, we're gonna call her Kimber. She came to me for shoulder pain, and she has been kind of going through, like, she's been one of those people that's gone to like every doctor, and she can't. Uh, Nobody can help her, and she's been on pain meds for a long time. And so we get into our work together, and I'm doing, some physical work on her physical body. But really what's happening with her shoulder pain is it's actually always linked back to her heart center and to her emotional wounding. But it's showing up as a physical symptom, as a physical injury in her shoulder. And so every time I get on the floor with her, she will have another layer of this emotional pain surfacing that we're having to heal in her heart center. And it's affecting the positioning of her ribs, and it's going into her shoulder, like her shoulder blade, and then into the actual joint, and causing her pain up her neck. It's like a whole thing. And we'll work on a session and work on her heart center, her heart chakra. And at the end of the session, she's like, I don't have any pain, right? And so and she has to continue to come back to me because we're continuing to deconstruct this heart center wound, right? Her physical symptoms get better and better every time I see her, right? Spiritual body. Okay, so this one is a little bit out there, but this was from my the last round of my intuitive development course, channeling course. And in the trans-channeled portion of the course where we're healing everyone's connections, one of the past lives that came through for healing was, I'm going to call her Emily. She had a past life that was, and I kept getting the word Aztec as they were channeling through me, and I was seeing the whole scene play out before me while I was channeling this. And she had been sacrificed. She'd been a human sacrifice in a ritual in this Aztec life. And the energy of this was so intense that it was affecting her ability, it was affecting her connection and her channeling ability in her gifts and her work. And so we were able to go in, and obviously the angels did all the work. I was just channeling it. But they cleared that lifetime and all of the earth ritual magic that was associated with it and burned it out. So that was like one of those really cool experiences that I did not expect to come down the pipeline. But that's an example of a spiritual body healing.
So one question for you on when you mentioned the physical body healing, there like I think that there can sometimes be the expectation that with a healing can happen instantaneously, but you mentioned that this one took repeated.
Mhm.
So can you explain like why would that be? And uh,
Yeah, absolutely. Because sometimes it's a one-off healing, and but most of the time, honestly, it's continued healing. Her like in this example, she has wounding, heart-centered wounding from her childhood, and it is going into um, that time in her life and healing and integrating those emotional wounds, right? And therefore, and having that then support her physical structure, right? Having her experience more range of motion and being able to then get, because she's had some atrophy because of her range of motion. So there's like a number of things that it is an integrated process that we're working on that is long term for her. Yeah. But it really comes back down in this experience to compounded childhood wounds that we're healing within the heart chakra.
yeah.
Yeah. Did that answer your question, Anne?
Yeah, yeah. I think I think what you're getting at is that it's like the wounds are built up over time and it takes a person time to release them. Sort of like going to
Yeah.
the gym, you don't go once and get
No.
fit. It's like you you go.
Nine nine times out of 10 in my client sessions, it is repeated work. It is
Yeah,
because it's layered on top of each other. And there's somebody comes to me and they're 50 years old and they have, so many years worth of deconstructing, right? And we can get to the origin point, but there's a lot of origin points.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
you
And I
know,
think there's on top of that, I think there is the truth that right now we're in this really unique phase of our existence where we have access to heal everything where we didn't in past lives. So I think there is the added bonus that even if you just, worked on yourself nonstop and
yeah,
healed all the things you came in with, there's a door open to more where we are have the
right.
option to. So yeah, anyways, as an added bonus, we can heal as much as we want to heal in this life, which is pretty amazing.
And a lot of times our wounds are like like they're layered, not just in this lifetime, but in other lifetimes. So a lot of times with like the spiritual body, for example, I might be working on someone's emotional body. They're dealing with some wounding or a relationship issue. Like they have a karmic relationship with, a soon to be ex-husband, and we're working on those wounds. And that goes then through, like, as I'm in their field working on them, I'm taken through into a past life where they had another experience together and having to work on healing that experience in that lifetime and then reintegrating back into their bodies. So they compound not only in this lifetime, but in multiple lifetimes, right? And we do have access to all of that now, which is great. And it's also very intense.
Oh my
You
gosh.
know?
Jane has a question for you. She says, how do you know what kind of issues cannot be healed by energy healing? Do you have to channel every time to know? And Louise seconds that. She says, good question, because I believe we all have blind spots when it comes to our own healing.
Oh, totally. Yeah, that's why I said in the beginning, I'm like, we all need to be working on ourselves because your limitation and your, how much you've worked through your blind spots is how is to be, what was the, I had a quote yesterday for this and it's in my sales page for the healing program. It was, um, as healing your blocks and blind spots comes um oh God, I can't remember it.
Oh,
Oh
you
well,
notice
whatever.
when you
But
get to the
anyway,
page.
the point is it was a really good quote. Oh my gosh. But the point is as we heal those things, we then can help others,
Oh, yes.
right? Like we can help others with the things that we've worked through. So we have to be doing them. I have, as Anne knows, she's been there almost every step of the way. I have done so much work on myself. Like I have been my own guinea pig. So while I'm working on somebody else in a client session, I have probably already worked on myself earlier that morning, right? And I've gone in and I've done something and that I woke up with that was in my dream, or has come up in my day. And I'm doing that self work all of the time. Yeah. And that gives you
Um,
more access and an expansion to work with somebody else. Yeah.
so
Was there
do
another part of
you,
that question?
I'm just wondering, do you mean that all wounds can be healed by energy healing? It just depends on where you are as a healer.
I don't, um, I don't think that all wounds can be healed by energy healing. I think that there are some people who have a contract where they're meant to have that experience in this lifetime. You know, that there may be um, something that they're getting out of that. There may be a medical issue that you do need medical intervention for. Like I, on a personal level, I may I may get a diagnosis of hip dysplasia, and that is a physical construct in my hips where they may not fit together properly, and I might have to have surgery. Like there are medical things that you might need, right? Medical assistance for physical symptoms. Do I think that a lot of things can be healed through energy healing? Yes. Yes. I think there is so much progress. I think this is like a whole body systems approach to energy healing from my perspective. We're handling the emotional body, the mental body, the physical body, and the spiritual body. Like it is a holistic approach to healing, but it does have its limitations,
Mhm.
right? Sometimes you do need medical help,
Yeah.
right? Some things may not get healed. Somebody may get cancer and it may be their path to have that experience. And that might be how they transition, right? So this isn't I don't want to put a fantasy around it that this is, um, all encompassing miracle all of the time. It can be in some cases.
Mm-hmm. It is, I think you make such a good point, Erica, is that I think that there are, I almost see it as like a spiral as we go through the different bodies, the mental body, the emotional body. It's almost like if you have a particular issue, you might see it in your dreams years before it manifests in the body. And it's like you'll get warnings like, hey, if you continue down this path, and it'll be, maybe it's negative thought forms of, where we're mentally, doing something to our own body because of feelings of inadequacy or whatever it is, right? It starts in emotions or in mental, and then eventually it becomes physical. And then the unwinding of that, right? Some of it can be unwound, but sometimes, like for example, like if you have an issue, sometimes the body becomes a healing agent, and the body will take a particular energy and encompass it and make it a tumor. And the tumor is the body's effort to try to help you to heal something by putting it into all one thing that can then be surgically removed. But a surgeon has to do it. It can't be done energetically. So it's almost like once things become, so some things physical can be unwound, right? You can reverse the spiral like you've done with the shoulder injury, you know? At least that's so, but some things I think are so deeply entrenched in the physical body that it then becomes physical intervention. Would you agree with that, Erica? What's your perspective?
I think that yes, and I do see things um like an organ or a tumor where you can go in and you can access the energy that is creating that tumor and
Mm-hmm.
work with that energy. So I do think that there is and that doesn't mean like you may still need to get that removed surgically,
Mm-hmm.
especially if it's large or if it's attached to something. There's many ways that you can there's lots of alternative therapies for dealing with tumors, but surgery is definitely one of them. And I think that that's a really good point, that that's the body's way of containing the problem. um, Problem is still there, right? In the sense of if there's an emotional mental component to it, you can work on that, and that can assist in the healing process. Like I've worked on ovarian cysts before, when those are like when endometriosis and things like that, and a lot of times they go back to mother wounding, right? So yeah, yes, and is my answer to that.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah. Anything else?
We're just comments in the chat that Louise says, so do all issues go back to the heart, energetically speaking?
Um, um, Not all issues, many issues. I the heart is usually linked to there. I go through the heart chakra in almost every session. But I do heart healing. feminine healer in that way. So if how do I want to say this? I access the heart in every session. So I do think that that's probably accurate. But then it will spread out throughout the body system. So I'll go through the heart and then it'll bring me down into like the sacral chakra. And there's an inner child wound there, for example.
Mhm.
And then we're working on that. Or it'll go down into the root chakra and there's a birth wound that or something in the womb that we need to heal. But then that comes back up to the heart. So the heart is connected to, yes, I would say probably every issue
Yeah.
in my experience.
I think I think it's one of the things and I'll tell you guys that Eric and I talk about healing all the time. Like it's one of the things, like as friends, we geek out on this stuff all the time. And one of the reasons is because it's always different. Wouldn't you say, Erica? Every
Yeah.
single session, and it takes
Yeah.
infinite creativity. And that's, I think, one of the things I love about your approach and what makes you an amazing teacher is that you're not giving a canned, like, do step 1, step 2, step 3. It's like you have to be engaged. You have to look, you have to see, you have to respond, right? It's every person is different, every situation is different, and it takes an enormous amount of creativity to be a great healer, wouldn't you say?
100%.
Yeah.
And knowledge, creativity and knowledge. Like you need to
Yeah.
know what you're reading. You need to know, you need to be able to identify the issue in the person's body or their mental block, right? So there needs to be a level of self-awareness and self-work that you've done. And then education. So background of like of different types of woundings so that you can identify it, you can see it when you get to it, right?
Yeah.
Like if somebody has been gaslit, I can identify that in somebody's body. I can see that and feel that within someone's energy field, like that, and that they have been gaslit and that they question. There's a lot of confusion. They question their reality, and I can work with because I can identify it, right? So infinite creativity and then knowledge base. And on top of that, you also need to have the skill set. You need to have like the know-how, how to do these things, and then take them and work them in whatever way you're going to in that session to to you know
Yeah.
facilitate that session.
And the
Yeah.
best thing is it never gets boring.
It
It's
doesn't.
always
Every session is different.
fascinating.
It's always shifting. It's always shifting. So I have a couple of, I said I was going to shamelessly offer you guys some stuff. If anyone is interested in learning or developing their intuition and channeling gifts or becoming a healer. So psychic energy healing training. So I am starting a program in May for psychic energy healing, and I'll be teaching what I do. So this is expanding off of all this information and taking a much deeper dive into psychic energy healing. So that launches, early enrollment is open. So if anyone wants to set up an informational call, there is, Anne, could you cut and paste that information into the chat box
You
again?
got
I
it
put it at
right
the
here.
top,
Yeah.
but that way you can, anyone who wants to talk with me about energy healing program that they can, and we can have a phone conversation. And then my intuitive signature development course, which starts in March. Oh, it says April. Sorry, guys, it's March. Typo. But there's a 10% off for anyone who wants to take the
Yay.
course. So the promo code is Spirit Savings, and yeah, and then that starts in March, not April.
And
So
so
I have two offerings.
your intuitive signature development course. So this is so can you tell us what will they learn specifically in that course?
Great question, Anne. Okay, so basically it's unlocking the connection to your gift. So we do a month of trans-channeled healing. It helps like raise your vibration. And then we do a month of basically psychic intuitive foundations. So how to properly protect yourself, how to clear and connect properly, how to learning about all the different gifts. I go through my spiritual gifts 101 course. And then we go into and many other things like energy testing. You learn a lot of different foundational things for being able to hold a session. In terms of giving readings through clairvoyance or clairaudience. And then going into the breakout sessions of practicum. So there's 2 months of small breakout groups where we're going through and we're doing this process and reading for each other. And I'm monitoring your connection and I'm giving you feedback. And then there's additional learning in that experience. And then that really builds confidence. That's been the best part of the class for everyone, is the level of confidence that they get at the end of the course versus when they started is night and day. And then you feel safe doing it and you know what you're doing. And it's a whole, because again, it's an intangible thing, right? Our intuition is intangible. And, you know, if you go through life and you're like, I know I'm intuitive and I know that I'm psychic, but what does that mean? It's like, well, let's talk about that because let's break it down. So that is the intuitive signature development class. Again, it starts March, and then the Spirit Savings gives you 10% off. There's a link for sign up in the chat box. And that has all sorts of more information there for that.
So
And
just
I really
for
love
clarity there,
teaching.
so this one, in the first phase of it, they get healing from you. So you spend
Yes.
time with them in the first phase of just clearing them and making sure they're clear. So that's pretty awesome. And
It's
then
amazing.
after that, you're going into how to stay safe. And then I love the part about the guided connection, because that's where you get, that's one of the toughest things I think, as you're trying to develop your own intuition, is knowing when you're connected and when you're not. So having that feedback, I think, is enormously helpful. Very
And I
cool.
see it. I see them and I feel them connect. Like I'm tuned into their field and I'm watching
Yeah.
it. And like we had a class last night, and one of the students is practicing trance channeling because she has that gift. And she was tired and she was struggling to keep her connection. And and so she had to come out of it and just channel, just do a basic channeling because she couldn't hold the connection because and it takes a lot of your
Takes a lot
energy.
of
And if you're
energy to,
tired
yeah.
or if you're getting sick, like it's challenging to hold that frequency. Um, and so she was able to be, I was like, I'm calling it out. You're not connected. You keep dropping it. Um, so yeah, so that's helpful. And then giving cues when somebody is new to this and they're new to channeling and they don't know when they're connected. Like another student does, she's like, I can't feel it. And I'm like, okay, well, we'll just keep practicing it, until you can. So anyway, yeah.
Beautiful.
So that starts March. Super exciting. I love teaching this class. And again, this can be bundled with the healing course. And then you get an additional savings on this. So the healing course, which is brand new, and I'm so excited, you guys. It's a full practitioner training, and it really is blending these gifts that we just talked about along with the healing practice. So it's a deep dive into psychic energy healing. It includes, so it's twice weekly calls. Um, we go into a lot of work. We go into the energy bodies more deeply. We go into navigating wounding and breaking that down. We go into practicum, where you're doing your self work, you're working on each other, and then you start to work on the public. This is good for somebody who's already trained in healing modalities and wants more information and more training, somebody who knows that they have a desire to be a healer and is being called forward. So it's for both camps. We will also have 2 live in-person intensives. So we'll do 2 weekends throughout the course of in-person practicum, and that's when I will be channeling and initiating people in the hands-on healing angel frequencies. So you will also get that as well, which is fun. So if you're interested in this, you can set up an info call with me. There's also a link to my website with all the information on there. Yeah.
Yeah, and I put the links to contact Erica in the chat. So, and you do have a couple questions in here too. So let's go back. So Linda was asking in the beginning, and I wanted to say this in case you touched on it in your presentation, but she was asking about, and funny, you talked about Kimbra's situation with her shoulder, because Linda is asking, she says, I would love to know how to move energy block in my left shoulder upper arm, maybe a session with you. And then Linda's saying, I was told to go to a healer or Chiro, prefer healer. Thanks.
Okay, so what's the question?
So she has energy block in her left shoulder upper arm, and she's wondering how to move that energy block. So she's wondering what you would suggest.
So
And
I would have to, I would have to tune into that deeper. There is, it's her left shoulder, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. There is, so she could do some visualization work if she wanted to. Definitely working with a healer. There is a chiropractor is, it will pull, that's not, it will adjust her and then she'll get pulled back out. So there is the the block is being pulled by, it's almost like fascia tightness. So there is energy stuck there that is creating the physical imbalance. And so going in and, from my perspective, working on both the physical symptoms and then also moving the energy. But I'd have to get behind the energy to see what is causing it. But I can see the energy stuck there. I don't know where it's coming from, but I get it in her neck and the base of her neck. So is it going into your kind of like support, like marsupial ridge area?
Linda, do you
Does
want
she,
to
is
mute?
she aware that it's in her neck as well? You can unmute yourself if she
There
wants.
you are. Yeah, she just did. Oopsie, we can't hear you, Linda. If you wanna. There.
Hello,
Yes.
can you hear me
Hi,
now?
Linda.
Hi.
Hi.
Sometimes it goes to my neck, but it's mostly in my upper arms. Yes. It started off first side, it's in both arms, but the other one's fixed and this one is it's been going for years. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So there's a combination of some strength issues that would be, so a little bit of physical therapy would actually probably be better for you than chiropractic work. Because I can see that it's almost like there isn't enough strength holding your shoulder where it needs to be. And then I'm getting that there's energy that's coagulated in your neck that's going in, that's affecting your shoulder. But then there's some also, as you're speaking, I'm feeling it coming from your heart space as well. So I think that it might be connected to some emotions within your heart chakra. So your heart and throat chakra is what I'm getting.
So what I love
Okay.
about that is that just in this little example, you're showing how the different bodies are all combined to affect one issue. So she's got a shoulder, which is being affected by emotions in the heart. And there's also the physical structure, which is that she needs to strengthen in order. So it's both, which is why it takes that you have to come into the situation with an open mind. I think it's just a great example. So thank you for being a guinea pig, Linda.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
You've got a couple
Yeah,
other.
Linda, I definitely recommend physical therapy, like um, a good physical therapist that works on strengthening, but also some fascial support.
Uh,
Yeah,
yeah, I'm new to Portland or America, so I don't really know who a good practitioner is. Yeah.
okay. Hold on, there is someone a training that I highly recommend. Let me stop the share here. Here we go. I always forget to do that. Um,
And we have a few more questions too to go through.
okay, okay.
So, and that's, I just to offer, just to confirm, I got the same thing, Erica
Did you?
yeah, it was physical therapy. Yeah.
Okay,
for-
beautiful. Okay, more questions?
Yeah, so hold on, I lost let me make sure I can see. Oh, here we go. Yeah, so Jane was asking, let's see here, Shatmias was saying healing is definitely like peeling an onion. Every time I think I've done it, something pops up to show me more that needs healing. Thank you for the discussion. Yeah, for sure. Isn't that so true? The whole layer of an onion thing is just so true. Jane says, do you see hypnosis as part of energy healing and how much can be healed through hypnosis?
Hypnosis, why can't I get this to come back up? Okay. Hypnosis is, I'm gonna stick this in here. Sorry, Diane Lee. Okay, I recommend 2 seconds. Sorry, 1 second. I recommend the Scal Services for physical therapy. You can look through a catalog and find somebody in the Oregon area that does her work. I see someone similar to her, like from her training, and they're brilliant. So I'd recommend that to you, Linda. Okay, so it was a gateway for me to energy healing for sure. It got me really comfortable with trance, and very, very comfortable with trance and journeying and all sorts of really beautiful subconscious work. I find hypnosis to be, in my experience, slower than psychic energy healing because there's a lot that's relied on the client to like to do heavy lifting, to be a really, really the active port person in their energy healing. And if they're blocked, if there's things that they're afraid to look at, it can be difficult. I've found the most successful hypnosis sessions to be around like car accidents and smoking and weight loss. So things that are very, very specific. Yeah, like trauma around car accidents. I've helped people with that, and it worked great. Um, in terms of weight loss, it can again be a great avenue. But when you're going into some of these deeper issues, I find that psychic energy healing is more impactful and more efficient.
I love that distinction. And the reason why is you're right, is that hypnosis, the person is having to do a lot of the heavy lifting. And that's the challenge, is that it's hard for us to see ourselves and where we are resistant. So I think that's a beautiful distinction. Here we got a question from Anuye, and the question is: Are what we call ascension systems, ascension symptoms, the same as blocks of energy that could be present in body consciousness?
Ascension
I know it's hard to say.
Say that 5 times fast.
Symptoms. Try it.
Ascension symptoms. I think, okay, and I want to hear your perspective on this, but what comes to my mind is ascension symptoms are as we are downloading or raising our frequency, so receiving higher frequencies, our kind of shadows, our wounding is coming up.
Mm-hmm.
And that would be the symptom, is it's highlighting something that needs to be worked through. It's not congruent with those higher frequencies, those ascension frequencies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that definitely is part of it. I think that there is definitely also I think the truth, if you think about a lot of the waves of light or energy that are hitting the planet right now, not the big wave of light which is coming, but in terms of energy that's hitting the planet, that there are times like for example, in a session, when someone is feeling their frequency go up in a session, they can have nausea, they can have dizziness, they can have so those, I think that could be a like an ascension symptom that comes and then goes, can be related to the energies that are hitting the planet. So I think is this a persistent thing, or is it something that's like, okay, this week I had this terrible headache and I don't know why? That can be, I think, is your body just freaking out because there's this extra energy that we're not used to hitting the planet. Wouldn't you agree?
100%.
Yeah.
Love that. That's true. I think that our bodies aren't used to holding, like when you are receiving a higher frequency, your body has to adjust to it.
Yeah.
And it can make us feel really tired. Like exhaustion has been one, right?
Yeah.
That we've all been experiencing. And then yeah, nausea, when you're somebody who's not used to being raised up to that higher level, will feel some physical symptoms.
Yeah,
Yep.
for sure. Yeah. So we got a question from Maureen. She says, so staying present and clear of own mind assumptions, using all senses, never boring for sure. Oh, she's talking about healing. Yep, for sure. Exactly. Yeah. It is the most fun thing. I mean, I think it is as work, for those of you who are interested in becoming healers, I think the thing that makes it the coolest, and the reason why like Erica and I geek out on it all the time, is because you never stop growing. Every time you run into a person that has a new presentation, like it's amazing how each of us, like nobody deals with the same trauma in the same way. We all are infinitely diverse in how we manifest our issues. So it becomes it becomes like this crazy puzzle, like the Rubik's Cube of healing. And I think that is the best thing. It makes it, and it's such a cooperative relationship between the healer and the person working through at the end of the day, I believe each person heals themselves, and the healer is the facilitator of that process. But trying to see the pathway through takes, everything you can bring, every trick in your bag, you got to bring. Yeah, which makes it really fun.
I love that perspective. I agree. And it's fun because again, it's like limitless imagination. And you, a lot of times, and we've geeked out on this before, Anne, where one of us gets out of a session, we're like, oh, that was so, like your mind is blown from what happened. And it's fun. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So, Shania says, I feel like my throat chakra is blocked and probably root. Have been wanting to start a channel to help women who would resonate with my story, but I feel stuck, unable to step into my voice and put it out there to share.
That feels like fear and vulnerability issues. Yeah, that's what I get, like right off the cuff. There's a fear of stepping out, and and it goes from your throat into your heart space, from your mind to your heart space. Actually just and then I feel it dropping down into the solar plexus too, which is your power center. So um yeah, that has to do, there's a fear there. Uh and sometimes when we're doing something new, it's scary too. You know, those things that we feel called forward to do, they scare us. We stretch. Um there's a vulnerability piece that I see being factored in that would be an opportunity for some healing.
That's awesome. And Pamela adds, she says, I love this democratic community-based approach to healing. Traditional medical doctors rarely ask for a patient's input and can be patronizing when patients attempt to explain their triggers, intuitive understanding for cause of their own pain. Such a great point, don't you think? Oh my gosh.
It's a problem. It's a medical community and not um and it's really not, they're not trained,
Mhm.
you know, and if they are trained, it's because they've gone out and done it on their own. And they, you know, they have sought that out for their own curiosity and probably their own gifting, right?
Mhm.
So, and I do get referrals from doctors. Like I do have clients that have come to me through natural paths and through the medical community, that have had, you know, physical issues that they have done everything in the book to handle, and have now said, okay, you need to go and work with you know, a healer, on this because I think that it's emotionally based, right? So they are out there, um, but they are more of a rare gem right now. I do see that shifting though.
So I love this question from Louise. She says, just because I have healing abilities coming online, are there places to use them that are not in a traditional sense as a healer or energy worker?
Um,
So as a healer, she's wondering, like, are you like, is there, so I'm wondering, Louise, are you hesitant to be a healer? Do you feel like you've got healing gifts coming online, but you have hesitation about becoming a healer? Because that in and of itself could be the place to look. It is an interesting thing that she's saying, yes, I did not see it. Yeah, it is a funny thing. I think that that many times people will have one gift and wish they had a different gift. And I
yes.
think that is like, it may be a thing where like, for example, in a past life, you could have been persecuted for being a healer. And then the job in this life is to come back to that role. But if you were given a particular gift, you are meant to use it. And so, and it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to, it could be a thing where you're healing family and friends. You know, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to go into the job of being, you don't have to make it into, you know, work. But here's an interesting perspective, and tell me what you would add to this, Erica, is that early on my journey, I was shown that I have the gift of hands-on healing. And I thought, well, how am I meant to be a hands-on healer? Because I knew that I was meant to also work remote. So how does that work? And I was shown that the reason I was meant to use the healing gift is that when you heal, you're channeling energy through your body. And so you get healed as you heal someone else. So for some people, learning to use their healing gift is, yes, you are helping someone else, but you are also healing yourself. So one of the ways that I healed my own masculine energy was by using hands-on healing to heal others. Would you add any thoughts to that, Erica?
Yeah, no, I agree in the sense when I am doing healing work, it raises my vibration
Mm-hmm.
and gets me into, yeah, I receive healing as well,
Yeah.
especially when you're doing something like hands-on healing because you're channeling the energy and it's working through you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but in psychic energy healing and trance channeled healing, I am, I am connected and my frequency raises, and I'm, I end up the end of the session probably feeling better than I did when I started,
Yeah.
because I just spent 40 minutes, you know, in a higher frequency.
Yeah.
But the I don't some people may have like healing abilities and not feel like they want to have that as their career. So you could be, healing friends and family. You could be healing, just in your presence, right? There are people that we run into, and I know a couple of them where just being in their presence is healing,
Yeah. Very
right?
true.
Yeah. So, but when you're called to be a healer and to step forward, you usually know it, and there can be resistance to it. And you've sold contracts. Like my angels have brought me all of my clients, and I don't really have to worry about it that much. There's we agree to help people, and they're waiting for us on their path as well to step forward and be that light and to help them at those certain junctures in their lives.
Yeah.
So yeah, and in that way, I think that when we're using our gifts, we're also, I think, wrapping up a lot of our own karma, you know, like we're kind of I just see it like gaining scoreboard points. We're expanding.
Yes. All right. Well, I know we've gone a little bit over, but it
Yeah.
was such a good conversation. I wanted to stay for a bit. I want to thank you so much, Erica, for sharing your knowledge with everybody and your excitement about the process of healing and how it works. I think people are saying, yes, this was incredible. Thank you so much. It's been a great conversation and so much knowledge and information that you have gained from just being in the trenches, doing the work for so long. And I really appreciate your willingness to bring that out and share it with everyone else. So thank you guys so much for being with us today, for bringing your energy to this process and your great questions, part of this conversation. It's been so fun. So I will welcome everybody back. Our Wisdom Soup, we meet on the second Thursday of every month. So I hope to see you guys next time. Thanks everybody very, very much. And I'll see you soon. Thank you, Erica.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Anne.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for having me.